What they didn't know was that they had officially started a war, and in 5 days, they'd be crying on the porch, begging me to help them undo what Grandpa had started. But that part is yet to come. First, you have to know what happened the next morning. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Grandpa typing. And when I say typing, I mean a typewriter, not a laptop, not even a desktop. An actual World War II-looking machine that he dragged down from the attic as if he were preparing for Cold War espionage. He looked up, handed me a cup of instant coffee, and pointed to the table. There were folders on it, receipts, old financial records, tax forms, and in the middle of it, my list, the one where I wrote down the $8,170 I'd saved over the summer. He didn't say anything for a while, just kept typing. Eventually, he slid a sheet of paper across the table. It was a letter to my father. No emotion, just facts. It explained how I had saved the money, where it was kept, and how that exact amount had mysteriously disappeared just before the family left for Maui. No accusations, but no room for doubt. I didn't ask how he was so calm. I just watched him move like a man who had waited years for something to matter again. He wasn't angry, he was energized. By noon, Grandpa had mailed certified copies of that letter to 3 people: my dad's employer, his accountant, who also did my uncle's taxes, and his country club. It wasn't even revenge yet, just warning shots. Then came the second wave. We went to the bank. Grandpa had me open a separate account in his name with me as a co-signer. It wasn't for protection, it was bait. He put in $100 just to make it official, said we'd need it later. After that, we drove to a friend of his, a grizzled old guy named Kenny, who ran a print shop out of a garage. Kenny made us a dozen fake save-the-date postcards for a fictitious 75th birthday party for Grandpa. The guest list, everyone my mom liked to show off to, neighbors, her Pilates friends, and worst of all, her church group. At this point, I didn't even know what the plan was. I was just following orders. That night, Grandpa cooked something strange with onions and canned fish, poured us both a glass of cheap whiskey, and sat down across from me. He said my dad used to steal quarters out of his ashtray when he was a teenager. He said it was always small at first and no one noticed, but the habit never left him. Grandpa had let it go for decades. This wasn't just about money, it was about what happens when you think you'll never be held accountable. And then he said something that still echoes in my head: I didn't raise him to be that kind of man, but if he wants to act like one, we'll treat him like one. The next day, I posted the Maui family photo on Facebook with a caption that simply said, "Glad they're enjoying my tuition money." It was shared 27 times in an hour. At first, nothing. Then my phone lit up, texts, missed calls. One from my mom asking me to delete the post, another from my dad saying I was overacting, a voicemail from my sister that started with "You really don't understand how hard they work" and ended with "God, you're such a martyr." I ignored them all. 3 hours later, they finally called Grandpa. I sat next to him as the phone rang. He answered as if nothing was wrong. He just said ha a lot while they talked. Then, after a long pause, he looked at me, gave the slightest nod, and said, "You will return every dollar or I press send." Then he hung up. I asked what send meant. He pointed to a folder on his desk labeled IRS contact sheet. I began to realize that Grandpa wasn't bluffing, and the best part, he still hadn't told them he knew they'd taken the money from my room. That part came next. The day after the phone call, things got weird fast. My dad tried to pretend it was all a misunderstanding. He sent an email titled clarification where he basically tried to make it sound like they thought I was not coming home and assumed the money was just some forgotten leftover